Back when we had the booking wars with the OTAs just started, and IHG pulled off the shelf from Expedia. We're not sold on any Expedia company channels for 4 years. We did that because we had friendly relationships with, at the time, Travelocity and with Priceline. Now, Priceline, when we did that, was Priceline. It was name your own price. It was William Shatner. And then you bought this little company in Europe called Booking.com, and wow, what a ride! And
Worked out all right.
Yeah, it sure did. And since then, you've bought a number of companies. You bought Price Match, I think one of the deals of the century. I think that's phenomenal. You bought Hotel Ninjas, Boutique. What else? Kayak, of course. Kayak, Agoda, et cetera. I mean, just the list goes on and on. But you and I have spoke about this. Oh, and actually, you have a deal that you just announced today. Why don't you share that with everybody?
Sure. So there's a company, and we'll plug China here. China called Meituan, which not a lot of people in the States know, but it is a massive $30 billion, you said earlier, startup in China. They just raised $4 billion. We participated in the round that was led by Tencent and invested $450 million. And we also have a commercial agreement between our Agoda brand and Meituan to work together in the travel sector. And it's really part of a broader strategy that we've talked about in China for a long time now, which is to both build our brands organically, but also recognizing how different the China market is from many of the other markets around the world, to partner with strong local players. And so this is really an extension of that strategy, which we really started with and have with C-Trip many years ago and have repeatedly invested in over the years.
Now, Meituan has a travel business, but it's only one part of its business, right?
Yeah, the majority of its business actually is in the food delivery space. So in the U.S., you would think of it as somebody like a Seamless. They also have businesses in the sort of local services space that are similar to sort of what you call maybe a mashup of Groupon and Yelp.
So this makes me, when we had our conversation about where this was headed, you made a really interesting point. You said that people think of Priceline, Priceline Booking, the Empire, as a travel company, but they're thinking about that wrong.
Yeah, we don't really think of ourselves so much as a travel company as...
Let's just let that sit there for a second. Priceline does not think of itself as a travel company.
We're in the travel industry.
Biggest market cap of any travel company that's publicly traded. It's not a travel company. Okay.
So fundamentally at our core, we're a technology company, and that's how we think, and that's how we operate. And it is about using technology to make the process of travel more frictionless. I mean, the more friction you can take out of the process, the better it will be for consumers, the better it will be for suppliers. The easier something is, the more of it you do. And we started with technology many years ago, just getting people on the internet and getting it easy to book. And now we're sort of expanding that to make the whole process of travel more and more seamless, taking more and more friction out of that process and using technology to do that.
So frictionless is a great ambition. It's also something where Google has dominated, right? Their thing is they don't actually care about travel business or any other business. They care about looking for inefficiencies and trying to solve them. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they were recently assessed. The value of Google's booking business or travel business was valued at $100 billion, more than us, yeah. Right? Why do you think that Priceline is in a better position to solve for frictionless travel than Google?
Sure. Well, because to some extent we are focused on it, and we can optimize our businesses, our platform, for that particular use case. Google has a phenomenal platform, but they are trying to do many things. And they're trying to do many things with essentially one platform. We've got one platform that's optimized to do one thing, which is make it easier for people to experience the world and travel.
Interesting. And if look, we all are worried about, we're worried about you guys too on the supplier side, but Google is the scariest company in the world that we all use all the time, and as consumers we love. We're rooting for you in that battle, but I think it's focus. Is focus on the industry and understanding of that, is that enough? when you're compared to a company with that kind of reach and power?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Look, there's focus, but also flexibility, right? We can do things that obviously you would, if we had to do many different things, serve many different industries, many different verticals, might work for one vertical, might not work for the other. We don't have to worry about those quote unquote other verticals. We can really focus on the travel element of it and and test and experiment and deploy our technology in a way that makes that process as frictionless as possible.
Sure. Now, turning back to the M&A and investment strategy, I remember years ago you told me that part of the philosophy is not investing in competing businesses, not investing in businesses that were just basically the same thing and just to gobble them up, which one of your competitors, their strategy was to do exactly that, to buy up competing businesses.
Yeah, so I think we have been, our strategy has been to really focus on capabilities that we don't have or can't develop in-house. And that's really how we've focused our M&A strategy and investing strategy. When it has come to making acquisitions to grow market share, we've always sort of felt that with Booking and Agoda and other platforms, we had very strong platforms that could take share organically. And once you start trying to kludge together different platforms and different services, that adds complexity to the system and to the process, and makes it harder to innovate. So we've sort of put all our chips in on red and said, hey, Booking and Agoda, and so the Priceline.com brand, we're gonna focus on building this one brand and use that to gain market share.
Well, so far so good, right?
So far so good.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. What areas do you think are the most intriguing right now from putting your investor buyer hat, like the stuff that you're thinking, hey, that's fascinating, and within that realm of stuff we don't do but we think is interesting?
This is now we're going to see who gets the most claps, right? Look, I think if you think about technology broadly, and I hate to sort of define things as just AI or just machine learning or just chatbots. To me, that's all very much wrapped up in technological innovation. They're all very interrelated. But I think that next wave of technological innovation, which is doing exactly what we talked about earlier, trying to take friction out of the process of booking your travel, planning your travel, figuring out where you want to travel, is going to be critical over the next few years. Now, what the ultimate end game is, I think very much remains to be seen. I mean, there is a certain amount of sex appeal of being able to speak into your phone and say, hey, book me the perfect family hotel in Nicaragua next week, right? But at the same time, and I use Nicaragua because my family and I just went there, there is a certain amount of enjoyment and excitement you get from doing that research on your own. Just figuring out, oh, hey, I found this place, I found that place. So there's somewhere between maybe where the world exists today and at the other extreme, hey, I just say, book me a family hotel. And we don't know exactly where in that continuum the technology will take us. But certainly we will deploy a strategy, I think, of continuing to invest tremendous amounts of dollars in that technology, testing it, and see where the consumer takes us. And I think that's one of the advantages we bring a lot of the hotels, is particularly if you're a small hotel, whether you're in the countryside of Brazil or you're in downtown Paris and you're an independent hotel, how much resources can you deploy to expand your platform? And one of the things we bring to those hotels is a technology platform that will make it easier for them to be found by the traveler who's maybe in Kansas City and maybe in Indonesia.
We've seen that. You guys were first to put together suites of tools for hotels outside of tools to help them use your channels, right? And I think that's pretty interesting. Can you comment on how that's worked so far? I mean, are hotels really wanting to do more business and become more dependent on your services?
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily more dependent, but I think particularly the smaller independent hotels. If you're a big brand, you've got tons of resources. But if you're a smaller independent hotel and you're looking for a solution that's relatively inexpensive, that is going to help you expand your business, I think the receptivity to that has been phenomenal, and we're going to continue to offer those services to those hotels.
So what's the coolest idea or business model in the travel industry that you wish you'd thought of?
I wish I'd thought of. I don't know, but it's going to come out of China. Look, it hasn't, it'll hit us. And there will be something that will transform the industry. And if I had to, again, since we're in Vegas, I have to put my chips somewhere, I'd put them on China. I mean, the types of innovation that's going on there, the scale of what's going on there really just dwarfs what's happening in the rest of the world.
But does it translate to the rest of the world? Does the activities, innovations, et cetera, that are built for the China market matter to travelers everywhere else?
Ultimately, it will, absolutely. Maybe not in the same way. They have different cultural norms, different expectations. But I think if you look at what they're doing, for example, in the world of payments and making payments seamless and easy, they are miles ahead of what's going on in the rest of the world. And making payments seamless and easy is something that is going to appeal to everybody.
Well, so to that end, Airbnb bought Tilt, an innovative payments company, and now they're even pivoting that further to create a finance company so that people who want to create inventory and that they can put on their platform can finance it through the platform they're going to sell, right? But it is a payments, a financial services play. Do you see something like that in your horizon? You're not playing in payments today, are you?
Well, obviously we have a huge merchant business that takes payments. So by default, yes, we are. Do we have a payments arm? No, I think, but it is in that continuum of spectrum of how do you make the travel process more seamless, driving out friction. And if there are ways we can do that either by partnering with payments players or doing something in-house, we would consider all options.
How about Bitcoin? Any thoughts about that as a future for this? Maybe that's the way you...
Maybe it is. I mean, look, our strategy generally is to say, look, let's deploy and test and see where the consumer goes. We don't approach anything religiously about something being or not being the solution. If we deploy it and the consumers love it, that's a direction we'll head.
What's fascinating to me is the commitment to innovate and adapt, even though you're massive, right? Which is really hard. The Innovator's Dilemma, that seminal book, talks about how big companies get disrupted because of the Innovator's Dilemma. They now are giant. They can't be nimble anymore. Is the answer really about these investments that you're making, you and your team?
I think that's a part of the strategy. I mean, I talked earlier about the fact that we have kept our businesses relatively simple. Booking.com has been about one thing, which has been booking a hotel, and it's been one platform and one instance of it, which has enabled it, despite its size, to be able to continually adapt and test and innovate on a continuous and real-time basis, and that will continue to be the strategy. And I think, look, as an organization, there's a lot of institutional knowledge, and we recognize that it wasn't that long ago. In fact, a lot of the people that are there were there at the time when we were that business that came in with a completely different model and a lower cost structure and a lower price model than everybody else, and were able to innovate and out-innovate and take the lead in the hotel business. And we recognize that that's always a risk, and you have to continue to reinvest in your business and to continue to innovate, or you ultimately will get disintermediated.
Excellent. All right, let's take a look at the Slido questions. Blockchain, kind of like the Bitcoin question. Is blockchain a longer-term existential threat to Priceline, Expedia, and other intermediaries? Interesting. Do we think about that? I mean, honestly, how many people truly understand blockchain? Really? It's pretty tricky. I think we all like to drop it in conversations, but it's actually pretty crazy. But is blockchain a potential disruptor to the disruptors?
It's clearly a potential disruptor. Will it totally transform the business? I think it's one component of that travel experience. So I think we need to be aware of it and need to think about how might it factor into our value proposition, both to suppliers and to consumers, and make sure that as it evolves, we're in a position to use it in a way that helps everyone.
Yeah, I think, I think we really don't understand blockchain, and this is an industry that isn't necessarily known for, that really like moonshot stuff like that. But Be interesting to see. Do you think that Priceline should feel like, at your core, you're a distribution business, right? You're in the distribution business. You're an intermediary. Do you feel secure in that space?
Secure, sure.
Surely something keeps you guys up at night about that. I mean, you disrupted, between you and the other giants of the OTA business, you turned a 5,000-year-old hotel industry on its head in 10 years. Could that happen again?
It will. There's no doubt it will. The question is how and by whom. Will it be us or will it be somebody else? But there's no doubt that we're going to be looking at this industry, whether it's in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, I don't know, but it's not going to look anything like it does now. And so one of the things that we have to do is continue. You can't get religious about anything. You've got to be open and understand what are the opportunities out there, what are the risks, what are the challenges, and make sure that if there is an opportunity that you aren't defensive against it, but you're embracing it if it's something that helps your consumers or the suppliers.
Excellent. And this other question just came in about South America. Now, Charles de Gaulle once famously said that Brazil is the country of the future and always will be. The reality is, though, that from an OTA and a distribution standpoint, it represents tremendous potential. We haven't really talked about it yet today, but the growth, it's phenomenal. But here we are in a game where you have, you're not really a big presence in South America.
We actually do have fairly significant. I mean, through Booking.com, they are
but it's mostly travel too, right?
Not inbound and outbound. I mean, Booking actually does have a very significant presence in South America. The question seems to be, why is it only Booking.com? Look, Priceline.com really is, frankly, a U.S. brand. It's a value proposition that U.S. consumers understand and appreciate. We have not made the decision to sort of expand that brand and that value proposition outside of the U.S. Kayak does have a significant presence in Latin America. Many of you saw they just acquired a small asset called Mundi there to sort of expand their metasearch footprint there. And then the only other brand we would have is Agoda, and that's really focused on Southeast Asia, and it gets back to that point of focus, and or Asia in general. And the Asia market is very different competitive dynamics than the rest of the world, and so that's really where they're focused.
But you don't envision a bespoke brand for the region like you have with Agoda?
No, I mean, I don't think so.
To do that.
I mean, just like we don't have a brand for Europe, or we don't have a brand.
No, Booking.com started that way.
It started that way, but it has really expanded globally.
Yeah.
And that's really how we think about that brand is on a global basis.
Excellent. Let's take one more question from the audience. And raise your hand if you'd like to ask the guy who has been stroking some massive checks, $450 million today. Some of you surely want a piece of that. Want to ask about what he's looking for, how he's got it? Or let's see, we can go back to Slido. Hotel loyalty programs.
Can you hear me?
Sorry? Oh, we have one. There we go. Got the box.
Yeah. Do you view Airbnb as more of a long-term competitor or a long-term potential partner?
Given their posture and how they approach the world, they're probably a competitor. There may be ways we could work together down the road, but right now, we're competing neck and neck, or we're competing. Well, it's neck and neck, I guess, is in the eyes of the beholder, but we're competing very strongly. And the world changes pretty rapidly in this space, so we'll see how things evolve.
Great question. Anything else from the audience before we close out? Okay, well, we'd like to thank you, Todd, for coming up. Thanks
so
for
much.
the coffee. Enjoyed our chat.